He doesn't even know. He's just wrecking the whole video. Just over there, not paying attention to nothing. I mean, I guess he's actually working,
at least he is doing
but he has
something.
no idea we're even talking about him.
So rarely.
Y'all talking about me?
All right, anyways, some of you guys have been asking about this project. The one that got shipped to us from Hawaii, and it's been kind of getting worked on in the background. Ricky's been cranking away on it.
Oh yeah, my baby right here.
Yeah, and you see he's working on a new motor plate because we flipped the brackets around that they send with the kit to kind of tuck the engine back pretty close to the firewall, and you can see how our firewall notch turned out all nice and smooth. Big transmission tunnel. Got the underside of it all blasted and cleaned. And out back, we've got something that's worth looking at. It's for this. And it's got some other things inside of it. So let's go see what that is. All right, check out Ricky's giant box.
Oh, you know anything big about me?
And this box, let's see, does it show who it came from on here? Oh, look at that. Our buddy Steve sent us a gigantic box with an engine inside of it. And some other things too. But go ahead and bust it open.
I've been waiting. It's like I'm like a kid on Christmas.
Yeah, you have been waiting a minute or two. I have seen what's in this box. Like, I saw a picture of it before it went in, but obviously haven't seen it in person.
How do we ready?
Let's see. Oh, it's in a bag.
Oh, they're all in bags.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, I guess, responsible. You good over there?
All right. Little man, big muscles.
Well, there's an engine under here. And then there's a block there and a really tall block there.
Why is that so tall?
Because it's a V10.
It's got 2 more extra pistons?
Yeah. All right, well, maybe we'll do a time lapse here and get all this stuff out of here. And then during the time lapse, I'll tell you what all it is. Yeah, seems like a good plan. Here we go. So this needs to go in there. And we were going to start building the turbo headers and mounting turbos and all that other stuff, because this is getting 2 turbos. But just in case these heads are any different than those heads, because they are an LS7 And I couldn't remember if this was a tall deck. It looks like it's a standard deck. Yeah, pretty sure that's a standard deck. So just wanted to make sure we had all of the right pieces before we built turbo headers, and they didn't fit. So I guess I didn't mention too that like Ricky made all this to tuck it back, because originally the front of the engine was probably an inch farther forward. So we made pieces to extend this shelf back and then make the new brackets for the back so that it's back like an inch farther. You can see we've got it's pretty tight on the firewall right there, but we can still get to the back of each of the heads to put grounding bolts in them. Yeah, we made it where it's pretty easy to get to the transmission bolts from the top side if need be. I can tell we're gonna have to, maybe this is done for the LS throttle body too, because we're gonna have to put a motion throttle body on it with the dual inlets. I already was planning to do that, but then it showed up with a throttle body on it. And we can't use that one. It's a lot easier to do the individual pipes instead of throttle body, then coupler, then Y. And this is, yeah, that's just a standard. Oh no, that's one of their Vangean style with the double O-ring deal. But that'll probably be for sale. Got some mass cylinder heads. I think this is a 427. I think. I don't know what he bought. But Ricky's gonna slide this thing back, take this engine out, put the new one in, and then we will be mocking up turbos, putting the struts back in it so that we can make sure they're gonna clear the tires, all that good stuff, which the struts are somewhere over here. There's the spindle mount front wheels, which we're gonna get polished at some point. Probably like right near the end. There's the struts over there. So right near the end of the job, because this car is going to make it the 6 week also. It's to the point now where lots of stuff's going to start happening really fast, because a lot of the ugly, tedious, like really pain to do fab work up underneath the car, patching holes and blowing off all the undercoating and fitting the seat. We had the tunnel done, and then he decided to switch to a Race Tech seat, so then we had to go in and kind of redo the transmission tunnel there to clear a Race Tech and give it some room. See, we got a nice mount there, ties the seat. Like the bolts come through under the floor, but then it's tied to the seat on the top, kind of sandwiches all that stuff. A lot of little tedious work in here. And it's gonna have the 12-inch screen that mounts back behind the dash. All the brackets and for that are over at powder coat. We've got a little body working to do because we took the notch for the steering column. We moved it over because the Race Tech had to be moved over to clear the door and like roll cage and all that other stuff. Part of me wishes we would have cut out all of this stuff to gain like literally like half an inch, because once you start putting a lot of these things together, you're chasing clearance sometimes down to half an inch, quarter inch. But this thing is going to start coming together.
Yeah.
And let's see. Well, that's interesting. We've got a balancer that we're not going to need anymore. 16-volt battery. We got the pump right there that's going to blow air to the back side of the Race Tech seat. Pretty slick. Actually, he might already have a throttle body. Is that what's in the motion box? I don't even remember. But lots and lots of stuff happening around the shop. Got stuff going on this. Ricky's cranking away on that. We got a gear change going in the Camaro. Grant's vet is waiting on a couple of parts because he switched to an LS6 intake manifold instead of the LS2. So we're waiting on an adapter for the throttle body. Got stuff going on with my car. We got the first gen Camaro in the back. It's got a whole bunch of parts here for it. Going to be mini tubbing that soon. we got a lot going on and a lot of stuff to get done in a short amount of time. So I'm going to set the time lapse back up. You guys to watch Ricky pull this motor out and swap in the other one. Shouldn't take you too long, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's gonna be a breeze.
Check out our mock-up lot. Custom.
Who did that?
I don't remember if that's mine.
I think they're both yours.
No, the other one was from the nitrous car that a guy brought me, and he was like, "It's knocking," and it literally has the whole entire front end blown out of it. But that one I think is from the burnout car, like the first or stock bottom end 5.3 liters. Anywho, let's get back to work. All right, well, let's fire off into a time lapse on this thing. And some of you guys wanted to see a lot of work getting done, and there's going to be a lot of work getting done during this time lapse. So I sped it up quite a bit to be able to show even more of the stuff that Ricky's doing on Reno's Nova here. And you know, this project has been one we've been working on off and on a little bit. Sometimes we're waiting to get some parts in. Sometimes we, you know, maybe are just tied up with another project that comes in, like the Viper, or getting another like long-term customer that's been in and out of the shop, like they have an emergency right before a weekend, like say, you know, Dick with the lawn dart. But we're definitely on this thing. Like Ricky, this is pretty much his job until the car is done. I may pull him off of the Nova for a day or two next week while we're thrashing to get Val's car ready, which I'll kind of explain the rush for that, or the need for the rush for that, in a video that I will hopefully get done for tomorrow on Val's car. And you know, that's the only reason why we would not be on this one still full time. But the idea is that we get Val's car wrapped up, get it back in Steve's hands, and then we'll have 2 or 3 people working on this car to get it finished. And then the idea is we'll have 2 or 3 people working on my car to hopefully get it finished, as well as some of our other work that we've got going on here in the shop. And it's definitely stressful at times, I'll say that, just because we have so much work to get done, so many people wanting us to do work on their projects, and it's awesome. It's a great problem to have, but it's still stressful, and that's coming from the business owner side of me. And you guys may have noticed that I've kind of cut back on some videos lately, like my frequency of videos, only because I'm trying to be working on the cars out in the shop more than I am just doing videos. The videos are great for the shop. It brings a lot of attention to the shop. You know, you guys that are here watching this, you know, we appreciate every single one of you that comes to the channel and watches what we're doing. But I have to find this balance of helping out in the shop, getting my own work done out in the shop, and then doing these videos, being a dad. You know, all of that stuff factors in to how much that I can do on YouTube. But anyways, let's get back to Ricky and the Nova. And you'll see he taped off the intake manifold, just because we know we're going to be setting the bar on it here in a second to lift the engine up. We want to make sure we keep that pretty billet intake manifold unscratched, because that's going to be one of the main things you see when you pop the hood on this thing, is that beautiful intake manifold that he got from Steve Morris Racing Engines. So we tape it off. We'll probably tape off the valve covers when we're working on the headers. Well, I guess we'll see how that all works out, you know, and how much clearance we have around things when we are actually building the headers, which the headers will come in another video, just because I know the timeline of this thing, and I'm actually a little bit behind on editing this video, and Ricky has gotten started on the headers and he's working on them right now out in the shop while I'm in here in the office doing the voiceover for this video. But you can kind of see one of the reasons why we use the mock-up blocks because it helps us get our motor plates worked out, because the front and the rear dimensions of the engine are not going to change. But one thing that does change between different cylinder heads is the exhaust port location may be raised up higher, and actually is raised up higher on these heads when compared to a stock cylinder head. And in our next video where we're building the headers, we'll show you the really trick exhaust flanges, like our header flanges we got from Performance Driven Design. I had some custom design stuff done to them to make our life even easier building the headers and to promote nice smooth flow. But you'll have to come back to the next video to see that, because that's when we're going to be building the headers for this thing. Or actually Ricky's going to be building the headers, because he's doing the majority of the work on this thing, with just me coming in and like just guiding him when he has questions and, you know, helping out where I need to. One of the things that we have to work out on this engine, and you can see me coming in and working this out here, is the oil pump pickup that we had for the old engine does not fit this engine. So the brace that braces where the pickup tube is down towards the bottom, it actually contacted the crankshaft on this engine. So it fit where we initially bolted it up, and then I went to rotate the engine over, and I felt it bump something. It was kind of like, uh-oh. So now we're having to cut off the mounting tab so that we can make it where it's going to clear the crankshaft, because this thing just fits differently with this larger stroke crankshaft than, and I guess it's probably not the larger strokes. I think this engine from Steve Morris has counterweights on the center of the crankshaft, and the other engine did not. So that's the reason why, you know, it contacted the counterweights. But anyways, we wanted to make sure we get the pickup height different, because this block that Steve Morris used does not have the LS oiling system in it. It has, like, the oil is going to come out of the oil pump, come out the front of the engine to a remote mount oil filter, and then it goes back into the block at the back. Factory LS blocks have the oil galleys in the lower part of the block, like kind of the skirted part of the block. But if you get a look at this block, you can see there's a billet aluminum adapter that basically takes the block down to the same height so that you can still have a stock oil pan fit. Like this oil pan was on a skirted LS block, but now we've used it on this other block, which I honestly don't remember which blocks didn't come with the full skirts. Like the blocks without the full skirts have a more traditional main cap. Like this one has a splayed 4-bolt main cap, meaning the 2 center bolts are straight up into the block, and then the 2 outer bolts per main cap are at an angle, which is, a lot of people will argue, is stronger than the 6-bolt LS style, where you have 4 straight and then 2 coming in at a 90-degree angle. People will argue, and you know, the more engineering types will argue that, and I think there's probably a good case for it, that the angled outer bolts, they pull down into the block where there's more, like a stronger part of the block, rather than the 4 straight up and down bolts that are like the factory style block. So anyways, Ricky kind of got that project wrapped up, and now you can see he's on to making the transmission cross member. And because the transmission cross member was already in the car, you notice we had to use a ratchet strap. If you go back in the video, he had to use a ratchet strap to pull the engine up kind of level to get the transmission over the cross member. Well, in the future, now that we have cut out the transmission cross member, we're making it removable. The engine will be able to tilt down and get into the car, and then you lift the back of the transmission up, put the transmission cross member in, all good to go. So one of the things that we do for our transmission cross members, these are SFI legal transmission cross members for the chassis spec. You see we use a 4-bolt flange on each side of the transmission cross member. Well, we take and we angle those flanges, like when he set the transmission cross member on the bench a second ago, we set it all down and then we tip the top of those flanges in about 1 degree per side. This is something that I wish I had learned years ago, because I did not do this years ago. And basically what happens now, not only does it make it obvious which direction the transmission cross member needs to go in, it goes right into place, and then it kind of wedges because the flanges on the car side are also matched to that angle. So you bolt it in, everything's perfectly aligned. It's kind of that whole angle thing again. And then when you need to take it out, as soon as you take the bolts out and give it one little tap downward, it just falls out. Now before, in years past, I used to have those flanges perfectly in line with each other. They were perfectly parallel. Well, what happened in doing stuff like that is you had to hammer that flange out all the way out of the car. Like, you take all the 4 bolts out and the flange did not come loose until the top part of the flange cleared the very bottom part of the flange. So that's a neat little trick that I figured out. Thought I'd maybe pass along to you guys. Hopefully you can use that. And it's been super helpful. And I think the time lapse ends possibly before he does the mount up to the transmission. But we'll have to see, because I can see on my computer here that the time lapse is almost ready to end. And you know, I don't think he's going to have time to machine all that stuff. But we're going to show it here in real time as soon as this time lapse ends, how the transmission cross member ended up. And it's turning out pretty slick, just like the whole rest of this car. And I can't wait to do some shakedown passes in this thing, so that when Reno gets here, he just has to hop in it, and we'll just keep turning the boost up more and more and more as he's comfortable, and he's going to get to go real fast. All right, well, catching us up on where Ricky's at over here. He's been fabricating and made a transmission cross member, which you probably saw in the time lapse, but check out that crazy notch. Had to use the mill for that one, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little trickery on the mill. But yes, we are doing it all solid because all of the engine is obviously solid. And then that makes this also become a fore and aft limiter, because if you guys think about this being plate here, with the weight of the engine and transmission, it can bend here, and then on, you know, on the motor plate, the engine could still try to shift forward and backwards. So making it solid like that, and since this is all aftermarket case, we're okay with that. If it were a stock case or anything like that, we would not be doing that. But when you have an aftermarket transmission case and aftermarket block and all that other stuff, you can get away with that, and it solves a couple of problems. But then one of the next things he's going to be working on is fabricating the drive shaft loop. And then I think once the drive shaft loop is done, we'll be starting to get or wrapping up, like sanding some of the underside of this, like where the seam sealer and stuff has been done. And then we're going to hopefully get the bottom of this painted. But that won't be this episode, because there's some other stuff you guys are going to watch him do next. So anyways, I guess enough jibber jabbering. Time to get back to work. It's looking good though. It's gonna be sweet.
So sick.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then, probably in the next episode, it's gonna be some stuff with turbo header fabrication and mounting and all that.
Excited. I'm so excited.
Headers are fun.
Oh, so much fun.
They're fun and they're a pain.
That's
also.
like the one thing I've been super looking forward to this car is just like meticulously building the headers. Exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, now we got a lot of work to do, so let's get back to it. All right, so come to find out, I didn't really have an outro for this video, so stay tuned for more because there's going to be an even better video on the header building coming up next week. So thank you all again for watching. Don't forget that 2.4 hours of lay mullets is next week, and me and Taylor Ray are bringing home that win.